Do you think, in your opinion, that the increase in property values would have occurred at that rate without the redevelopment?
No, not at that rate. This amount that I'm talking about is very specific to the redevelopment. This is looking at comparing how properties increased in value as you got further away, looking at a before and an after, doing an econometric evaluation. These are the numbers you can take to the bank.
And Jose, what he's talking about is this economic analysis, but it wasn't just about new buildings. There were a lot of programs here, and I'm going to ask Brett to talk about that aspect on resident satisfaction in a few minutes. But the Hope Six enabled us to develop and implement new ideas. Tell us about that.
Well, one of the things that that Hope Six provided us was with the opportunity to establish partnerships with the county, the state, as well as with the city in terms of focusing on a specific population, addressing the needs of that specific population. So one of the first things that we did early on was that we did an evaluation, and for each particular family, we developed an intake of that particular family profile. And based on that profile of that family, specific services were allocated for them. The whole concept behind it was to help families move from dependency to self-sufficiency. That's essentially was the purpose of what Hope Six was in terms of the community supportive services. I also would like to add to something that very important that Brett just mentioned is that the increase of property value, really what we're discussing here is the increase of capital. Families, homeowners, many of them down the port which are in fixed income, because of the Hope Six project, they built more capital than what they had before. So it really is about wealth creation. At the same time, the community supportive services is about building human capital. So in one perspective, we are dealing with actual dollars, bank accounts, equity in their homes, and in the other aspect, we're dealing with building human capital, which is increasing levels of education, providing services to the families through childcare, through after-school programs, etc. And that's the holistic approach that Hope Six use.
And what do you think the residents like the most about this?
I think that the residents enjoyed the entire process, Mayor, because they were part of that process. The whole idea of being able to rebuild their community, it's a very challenging experience for everyone, including for all of us that were involved in this process. It's not every day that we have that opportunity with the support of the federal government, the state, the city, etc. In terms of community supportive services, I believe that the case management component of Hope Six was extremely important for the residents, because through the case management program, we were able to actually follow each family through the entire process of the bureaucratic process of services that are available to those families. I think that was a piece in which the residents had a tremendous impact in their lives. At the same time, the whole process of rebuilding the community, of designing their homes, making decisions in terms of how many bedrooms do we need addressing all those issues for them was, I think, a very interesting experience.
Jose, one of the things that we were finishing up, in your opinion, what do you think made this program successful?
I believe was the commitment of all the participants in this program, from the federal government to the city. The monthly meetings that we used to have with you, Mayor, were extremely helpful. The fact that
Well, you only did things whenever the monthly meeting was scheduled.
Well,
Everybody reacted a day or two before the monthly meeting.
I will skip that aspect, but definitely to be able to meet on a monthly basis with all the heads of the departments, construction department, that really was able to move the project forward and not allow any major delays to occur. So when you're dealing with, as we were dealing with banks, financing, where certain things had to be done, we need a planning board approval by certain day. The support that we received from the city was really magnificent in terms of moving the project forward. The same thing with the county government, the residents, the state was extremely supportive. Close to over $90 million we received through a tax credit program from DCA. So it was a combination of different factors that made the program work. And I think that we were very lucky that we were able to put together those partnerships. Unfortunately, all the cities throughout the country, that's not the case. There's a tremendous factional fighting going on, and the result is that programs of this nature just never get completed. They never get done.
Dr. Bond, one of the things you talked about in your presentation last week to the department directors and members of City Council was the effect that this program had on the Elizabethport residents, and were they satisfied or not. And tell us, our viewers, what you found.
Sure. There were several aspects of assessing how the residents were affected. I mean, just first some numbers. There are 526 occupied housing units before the redevelopment. They built 480 new affordable housing opportunities, and they added 130 Section 8 vouchers, which brings created an additional 135 affordable housing opportunities that were not present in the area before. So physically, more people who needed it have a place to live. Second, we look at satisfaction. If we talk about the satisfaction, we went out and interviewed several people. We had an interview, I think we had 72 respondents, and over 90% of them said that their housing and situations were better or much better than they had been before. And I think the really important question that really comes down to it, 76% of them said they felt as safe or much safer than they had been before the redevelopment. So here we see a lot of more opportunities for affordable housing. We see satisfaction, and the other survey results were similar. And then, as Jose was saying, there was a lot of work done on the community and social services. And if you look at the numbers, you see that the Housing Authority had put together some targets, and in many cases, well, in all cases, they exceeded the targets, and in many cases, they exceeded the targets by a multiple of 10. So they were going to do 100 job training programs. They put over 1,000 people through that program.
Now, have you seen new programs in your analysis as well that were not there before? Did you look at any of that?
I looked at some of the new programs. I looked at was one of them was the after-school arts program, the arts and dance program, which is innovative and culturally enriching, and has the two benefits. You may get somebody who becomes a superstar out of this, but it also has educational benefits that affect the children and, in a sense, spill over to the rest of the community.
Now, did you look to see if they're run correctly, or could you analyze it to that point, or did you ask the residents if they were satisfied with the new programs? I mean, was that part of the study as well?
Right. Part of the survey was looking at were residents satisfied with the services, and the survey generally found that to be the case. I don't have the numbers memorized on that. Other implementation issues. One of the issues that Jose touched on was how much money was raised, and HUD likes the guidance is that for every dollar of federal money, you're supposed to raise $1.85 of non-federal money and use that together to improve the community. The Housing Authority had the federal grant of $28.9 million, and they raised over $90 million. So that's an improvement of a factor of 3. So in that example, they exceeded the HUD expectations. So that's good